The next technique I'm going to show you is called stippling. To get started, paint your circle with the two values you see the most of. So in this instance, when I look at the reference image, I mostly see a light gray and then a medium dark gray. So I'm going to paint those more or less where I see them and allow them to dry completely. For stippling, you want to use your smallest rounded brush. You're going to really just be using the tip of the brush in a dotting or dabbing motion. Start by adding white into the lightest gray and gradually getting a little bit darker with your paint. And then you're going to do the reverse. So you're going to, on the dark kind of half, you're going to add black and dark gray and then gradually get lighter and then overlap where the two meet in the middle, so that you're building up values, first working from light to dark and then dark to light, and again overlapping your dots so that you create a gradual transition with your values using that stippling technique. The next technique I'm going to show you is called a painterly or impasto style. To get started, you need to fill your circle in completely with your medium value or mid-tone. And I'm going to work with a large flat brush just to start. So for this technique, the object is to use minimal brush strokes and leave the brush strokes visible, which is really different from the other techniques we've been utilizing. So you're going to create transitions in values, but you're not going to be blending those transitions out. Instead, you're going to leave visible brush strokes. And the difference between just the painterly style and the impasto style is, for impasto, you're using a really thick application of paint that almost creates a texture. So you can see here, I'm using a really heavy application of paint and I'm leaving it just as it is. So the key is to not overwork your paint. So you don't want to really do a lot of work with the brush. You just kind of want to lay the values down and then leave them alone. So that's why I like to start with a big brush and then go in as needed with a smaller brush if I need to get in some of those values in more kind of precise ways. So you're going to be working light to dark, but again, just making careful choices about where you're putting those values because you're not blending them out. And you're really leaving those visible brush strokes. This is a really fun way to paint because it's really freeing. You can work wet into wet like I'm doing here, or you can let the paint dry and come back to it later and work wet into dry. The final technique I'm going to show you is called layered washes. If you are working on an absorbent surface like paper, you can dilute your acrylic paint as much as you want and create a watercolor effect by diluting it. So that's exactly what I'm doing now. I'm adding lots of water to my paint and thinning it out so it's really transparent. And you can see that I have a couple of layers right here. The main difference between the acrylic and the watercolor is that once the acrylic dries, you cannot reactivate it. And so it's best to think about it in terms of building layers that overlap as opposed to trying to blend one layer into another. So gradually thinking about going from light to dark with your layers and letting each layer dry. And then over time, building your values that way. So the more grays you have, the smoother the transitions between the layers will be.